Did you know that dictatorships or dictators live under intense fear? Fear that is largely attributable, first of all, to their personality traits, because most of them are paranoia by character, born out of personality challenges that we may discuss at a later stage, but also out of fear for rebellion. Because many times they know they have suppressed people, they have replaced people, and as a result, they know that given an opportunity, the people might rebel against them. The other aspect is that dictators or dictatorships fear to lose power, because unlike in democratic dispensations where people lose power and live comfortably in their homes, dictators, on account of the many sins and crimes they have committed while in power, they know that losing power means going to jail or going into exile. And as a result, they avoid the possibility of losing power. And as a result, and that explains the cycle of violence and control that is intended to reinforce fear in the population as a measure to make sure that the population does not overcome the fear and challenge them. The dictatorships are very vulnerable. They always look strong from the outside, but they are very vulnerable and weak from within, because they largely depend on a small circle of trusted enforcers and perception that they are strong. So as a result, they are very vulnerable and they live under intense fear. And that explains why they are always focused on controlling the population. If you look at countries that live under dictatorships, there is a lot of machinations from the dictatorship to ensure that the population is under control. To control who earns what money, to control who organizes what event, to control who teaches what subject, and who receives what kind of information. The current maneuvers by the government of Uganda to introduce the protection of sovereignty bill, that's what it is called, is largely intended to reinforce that control on the population, to control who earns what amount of money, who sends who what amount of money, as a measure of ensuring that they have strict grip on the population. Unfortunately for our case is that the measure being introduced now affects everyone, including those that believe are part of the establishment in the long run, or their children who are working abroad or studying abroad. But also because this particular one, there has not been much thought put into it. They have tried to replicate what has been happening in North Korea and other countries that live under authoritarian regimes, and to replicate it here without putting into consideration the special challenges of our country. For example, without focusing on the huge population of the diaspora, that of our people that live in the diaspora, but also without looking at the impact the direct foreign investment has on the country and things of that nature. But to sum it up is that the bill, just like other measures, is largely driven by fear and paranoia, which makes it necessary for the regime to invent means of controlling the population as a measure of dealing with their own fear.